The research station floated in the dark emptiness between stars. It was called the Pale Observer, and it was home to some of the smartest scientists in the galaxy. For 300 years, they had studied the most dangerous creatures in known space. They wanted to understand what made a predator deadly. Dr. Vila stood before the observation window and watched her newest specimens. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 eyes that could see in complete darkness. She had studied hundreds of species. She had seen teeth that could cut through metal. She had seen claws that dripped with poison. She thought she had seen everything. Today, a scout ship had returned from a small planet in an uncharted part of the galaxy. The planet was called Earth by its inhabitants. The scouts had brought back many samples. There were tissue samples from something called a great white shark. There were scales from a creature named Komodo dragon. There was blood from massive reptiles that lived in salt water and could crush bone with a single bite. But the scouts had also brought something else. Almost as an afterthought, they had collected 2 living specimens from the planet's dominant species. The creatures were called humans. Dr. Vila looked at them now through the thick glass. They did not look dangerous at all. The first human was an older male. His hair was gray and his face was lined with age. His name, according to the ship's translator, was Kim Jong-ho. He had been a fisherman on his planet. He sat quietly on the floor of his cell, watching everything with calm, dark eyes. He did not pound on the walls. He did not scream. He simply watched. The second human was a younger female. Her name was Park Yuna. She had been something called a trauma surgeon, which meant she had spent her life cutting open bodies to save lives. Unlike the older human, she did not sit still. She walked slowly around her cell, touching the walls, looking at the ceiling, studying every corner. Her movements were careful and measured. She was learning the space. Dr. Vela's assistant, a young male named Torin, stepped up beside her. His skin was green and his eyes were large and worried. "I have placed them in the prey category," he said. "They have no claws, no fangs. Their skin is soft and thin. They move slowly compared to the other specimens. They cannot see in the dark. They cannot hear very well. By all measures, they should be food for the real predators." Dr. Vila nodded slowly. This made sense. When she looked at the humans, she saw nothing that scared her. They looked fragile, breakable. "Begin the DNA comparison," she ordered. "Compare their genetic markers to the predator samples. Let us confirm they are prey, and then we can focus on the more interesting specimens." Torin bowed his head and walked to his station. He began the work of analyzing the human DNA. Dr. Vela continued to watch the humans. The older one, Junho, caught her looking. He did not look away. Instead, he smiled. It was a small, gentle smile, the kind you might give to a friend. But something about it made Dr. Vila feel strange. She had seen predators bare their teeth before. This was different. This was something she did not understand. She turned away from the glass in the predator holding area. The other specimens were behaving normally. The shark tissue samples showed extreme aggression markers. The crocodile blood contained stress hormones at very high levels. Even in death, these creatures screamed of danger. But the humans were quiet. Too quiet. Perhaps hours passed. Dr. Vila was reviewing old research files when Torin came running into her office. His large eyes were wide with something she had never seen in him before. Fear. "Doctor," he said, his voice shaking. "There is a problem with the human samples." "What kind of problem?" "I ran the DNA analysis 3 times. I thought the machine was broken. I checked everything. But the results are the same every time." Dr. Vila stood up slowly. "Show me." They walked together to the genetics lab. On the screen, 2 columns of data glowed in soft blue light. One column showed the genetic markers of known prey species across the galaxy. The other showed the genetic markers of apex predators. The human DNA matched neither column exactly, but it was much closer to the predator side. "That is impossible," Dr. Vila whispered. "They have no natural weapons. They are slow. They are weak." "I know," Torrin said. "But look at these markers here." He pointed to a section of the data. "These are not the same as normal predator markers. These are something else. Something I have never seen before." Dr. Vila stared at the screen. The numbers did not lie. The humans were not prey. They were something else entirely. Something that did not fit any category in 300 years of research. She looked back toward the holding cells. Through the walls and doors, she could not see the humans. But she knew they were there, sitting, watching, waiting. "What are they?" Torrin asked. Dr. Vila did not answer. She did not know. But for the first time in her long career, she felt something cold crawl up her spine. The old human was still smiling. She was sure of it. "Increase security around their cells," she said quietly. "And tell no one about these results." Not yet. She needed to understand what they had brought onto her station, before it was too late. 3 days passed on the Pale Observer. Dr. Vela could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the DNA results glowing in the darkness of her mind. The humans should not exist. Nothing about them made sense. She stood again at the observation window, watching the two specimens. The older one, Junho, had not changed his behavior. He sat in the same spot every day. He ate the food they gave him without complaint. He nodded politely at the guards who watched him. He seemed almost peaceful. The younger one, Yuna, was different. She never sat still for long. She walked in patterns around her cell. At first, Dr. Vila thought she was nervous. But then she noticed something. Yuna was counting. Her lips moved silently as she walked. She was measuring distances. She was timing things. Every time a guard passed her cell, Yuna looked at the clock on the wall. She was tracking their patrol. Scheduled. Dr. Vila felt a cold feeling return to her spine. Torrin entered the observation room with a datapad in his shaking hands. His face was pale. Even his green skin looked sick. "I found something," he said. "Something bad." He placed the datapad on the table and pulled up a new analysis. This one compared stress hormones between species. On one side were the readings from the predator specimens. On the other were the readings from the humans. "Look at the sharks first," Torrin said. "When we put them in containment, their stress hormones went up. Very high. They stayed high. The creatures tried to attack the walls. They bit at anything that came near them. They exhausted themselves fighting." Dr. Vila nodded. This was normal predator behavior. When cornered, predators attacked. Now look at the humans. The chart showed something different. When the humans were first captured, their stress hormones spiked just like the predators. But then something strange happened. The hormones dropped. Not slowly over time. They dropped suddenly, as if someone had turned off a switch. "I do not understand," Dr. Vela said. "Neither did I," Torrin replied. "So I studied their brain activity. Doctor, their bodies are stressed. Their hearts are beating faster than normal. Their muscles are tense. But their minds are forcing their bodies to stay calm. They are consciously suppressing their fear response." Dr. Vila stared at the data. "That is not possible. Fear is an automatic reaction. You cannot simply choose to turn it off. Humans can. They are doing it right now. They are scared, but they are choosing not to act scared. They are waiting. Waiting for what?" Torrin did not answer. He did not need to. A junior researcher named Callus ran into the room. She was young, with silver skin and nervous eyes. She had been given the task of reviewing the Earthship's data logs. "I found videos," she said, breathing hard. "Videos of how humans hunt." She connected her device to the main screen. A recording began to play. The video showed a group of humans on a dry, brown landscape. They carried simple weapons made of wood and stone. In the distance, a large four-legged animal was running. "This is old footage," Callus explained, "from thousands of years ago in human history." The humans began to run after the animal. The animal was faster. It disappeared over a hill. Dr. Vela expected the humans to stop. They did not. They kept running. Their pace was slow but steady. The video jumped forward in time. Hours had passed. The sun had moved across the sky. The animal was still running, but slower now. Its legs were shaking. Foam dripped from its mouth. It was exhausted. The humans were still coming. They never stopped. They never rested. They just kept moving forward, one step at a time. Finally, the animal collapsed. It could not run anymore. The humans walked up to it calmly and killed it with their simple weapons. The video ended. The room was silent. "They did not catch it by being faster," Callus whispered. "They caught it by never stopping. They just kept going until it died." Dr. Vela felt like the air had been sucked out of her lungs. "Persistence predators," Torrin said quietly. "I read about this. Some species do not hunt with speed or strength. They hunt with endurance. They follow their prey until it cannot run anymore, until it gives up, until it dies from exhaustion and fear. But those are rare," Dr. Vela said. "Very rare. And none of them are intelligent. None of them build ships that travel between stars." She looked at the screen where the video had played. She imagined those humans following something across a planet, across a star system, across a galaxy, never stopping, never giving up. She turned to look at the cells. Junho was watching her through the glass. His eyes were patient. His smile was small and calm. He knew she was starting to understand, and he was not worried at all. "Order a full genetic deep scan," Dr. Vela said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "I want to know everything about their DNA, every marker, every gene, everything. What do you think we will find?" Torrin asked. Dr. Vela did not answer. She was afraid to say it out loud. She was afraid that speaking her fear would make it real. But deep in her heart, she already knew they had made a terrible mistake bringing these creatures onto her station. And the worst part was that the humans knew it too. They had known from the very beginning. The deep scan took 12 hours to complete. When it was finished, Dr. Vela gathered her team in the main research room. Torrin stood beside her. Callus sat in the corner, biting her fingernails. The other researchers waited in nervous silence. The results appeared on the large screen. Thousands of genetic markers glowed like stars in the darkness. Dr. Vela began to read them. With each new discovery, the room grew colder. "Adaptation markers," she said, pointing to the first cluster of data. "Every species has some. They allow creatures to survive in their home environment. Look at what the humans have." The screen zoomed in. The numbers were impossible. They can survive in burning deserts. They can survive in frozen icelands. They can survive in thick jungles, on high mountains, and even underwater for short periods. Their bodies adjust to almost any condition. They do not specialize in one environment. They can live anywhere. Torrin made a small choking sound. No other intelligent species has that range. Not even close. Dr. Vela moved to the next cluster. Adrenaline pathways. All species have these. They help in dangerous moments. Fight or run. But human adrenaline does something extra. She pulled up a comparison chart. When humans are in danger, their adrenaline can override their pain response. They can be wounded, badly wounded, and keep fighting. They can ignore damage to their own bodies. They can push past exhaustion. They can break their own limits. For how long? Callus asked. We do not know. The records show cases of humans continuing to function with injuries that should have killed them instantly. Their bodies are designed to destroy themselves if necessary to survive. The researchers looked at each other. This was madness. Dr. Vela continued. Now look at this. Pack bonding hormones. All social species have those. Torin said. Double quotes, yes. But human bonding is different. Watch. She pulled up brain scan data. Human bonding hormones do not only connect them to their own species. They can bond with anything. Other animals, machines, ideas, concepts that do not even physically exist. What does that mean? Callus asked. It means a human can love a creature they just met. They can form deep emotional connections in days or even hours. And they will die for those connections. They will kill for them. They do not need to be related. They do not need to be the same species. If a human decides you are part of their pack, they will protect you with their life. The room was completely silent now. Dr. Vela pulled up the next set of data. Regeneration capacity. Humans heal faster than most species. But that is not the interesting part. When a human bone breaks, it heals back stronger than before. Their immune system learns from every sickness and remembers it forever. Every wound makes them harder to kill. She paused. Her hands were shaking. She did not want to show the last part. But she had no choice. There is one more thing, she said. The worst thing. The screen changed. Red markers appeared everywhere. They clustered together in patterns that looked almost angry. Violence genes, Dr. Vela said quietly. Every predator species has some. They control aggression, territorial behavior, and combat instincts. Humans have more of these markers than any predator in our database. More than the sharks. More than the crocodiles. More than any species we have ever studied. But they seem so calm, Torin whispered, because these genes are dormant. Most of them are turned off. Humans have learned to suppress them. They have built societies and rules and laws to keep these instincts contained. They chose to stop being monsters. She let that sink in. They are not peaceful because they are weak. They are peaceful because they choose to be. All that violence, all that aggression, all that killing instinct is still there. It is just sleeping. Callus stood up suddenly. Her chair fell backward with a loud crash. We need to let them go. Right now. We need to put them back on their planet and never come back. It is too late for that, Dr. Vela said. She looked at the wall that separated them from the holding cells. Beyond it, two humans sat in their small rooms, patient, calm, waiting. We did not capture prey. We did not even capture predators. Dr. Vela's voice was barely a whisper. We captured something that hunts predators for fun. Something that kills the things that kill. Something that looked at every monster on its planet and said, I am worse than you. She turned off the screen. The room fell into darkness. And now they are on my station. And they know exactly what they are. And they are not even a little bit afraid of us. Far away, in his cell, Jonho stretched his old bones and smiled. In her cell, Una stopped counting and sat down. She closed her eyes and slept peacefully. They both knew the aliens were starting to understand, but understanding was just the beginning. The real lesson was coming soon. Dr. Vela made a decision. She would separate the humans. She would study them one at a time. Perhaps alone, they would reveal more about their nature. Perhaps alone, they would be easier to control. This was her first mistake. Junho was moved to a new cell in the east wing of the station. 2 guards were assigned to watch him at all times. Their names were Ren and Sola. They were soldiers, not scientists. They were supposed to be tough. Within 6 hours, they were laughing at his jokes. Junho did not try to escape. He did not threaten anyone. He simply talked. He asked Ren about his family back home. He learned that Ren had a young daughter who was sick with a rare disease. Junho listened carefully. He said he was sorry. He meant it. He asked Sola about her life. He learned that she had joined the military to pay for her younger brother's education. She had not seen her brother in 3 years. Junho nodded and said she was a good sister. He meant that by the end of the first day, the guards did not see a specimen anymore. They saw a tired old fisherman who missed the smell of salt water and the sound of waves. They saw a grandfather who told stories about catching fish as big as their bodies. They saw a friend. This was the first danger of humans. They made you love them. And once you loved them, you would do anything for them. Yuna was different. She was moved to a cell in the West Wing. 3 guards watched her instead of 2. They had heard she was the more dangerous one. They were wrong. Both humans were equally dangerous. They were just dangerous in different ways. Yuna did not try to make friends. She watched. She counted. She remembered everything. Within 12 hours, she knew the patrol schedule by heart. She knew that the guard on the night shift always arrived 2 minutes late. She knew that the door to her cell made a specific sound when the lock was about to open. She knew that the air vents were too small for her body, but large enough to pass small objects through. She knew that Callus, the junior researcher, felt guilty about keeping them prisoner. She had seen it in the way Callus looked away when their eyes met. She had heard it in the way Callus's voice shook when she spoke. Yuna filed this information away. Guilt was a tool. Guilt could be used. Dr. Vila called Junho for a direct interview. She sat across from him in a small room with a table between them. 2 guards stood at the door. She told herself she was safe. Junho smiled at her. It was the same gentle smile he always wore. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with me," Dr. Vela said. "I have nowhere else to be," Junho replied. His voice was calm and warm. "Ask your questions. We have studied many species from your planet. The sharks, the crocodiles, the wolves. They are impressive predators." "They are," Junho agreed. "Where do humans fit? In the order of your planet?" Junho thought about this. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked a question of his own. "How many of your people have visited Earth?" Dr. Vila was surprised. "A few scout ships over the centuries. Perhaps 19 missions in the last 400 years. 19, Junho repeated. "And how many came back?" Dr. Vila felt her hearts begin to beat faster. She did not know the answer. She made a note to check the records. Junho watched her write. His smile did not change. "I think you will find that most of them did not return. No distress signals. No wreckage. They simply disappeared. What happened to them?" Junho shrugged. "I do not know. I am just a fisherman. But Earth is a dangerous place. We have sharks in our water and wolves in our forests. We have storms that can destroy cities and earthquakes that can swallow mountains." He paused. "And we have us." The room felt smaller suddenly. The walls felt closer. "We knew you were watching us," Junho continued. "We have known for a long time, but we were not ready to come find you. So we waited. We watched. We learned. Humans are very patient when we need to be. We can wait for a very long time." Dr. Vila's throat was dry. "What are you waiting for?" Junho leaned back in his chair. "We are waiting until we are ready. Until we know enough about you. Until we understand your weaknesses and your strengths." He looked at her with those calm, dark eyes. "We are almost ready now." At the same moment, in the West Wing, Yuna was having her own conversation. Torin sat across from her, asking questions. But Yuna had questions of her own. "You feel sorry for us," she said. It was not a question. Torin looked away. "I am a scientist. I do not have feelings about specimens." "Yes, you do. I can see it in your face. You think this is wrong. You think we should be set free." Torin said nothing. But his silence was an answer. Yuna smiled. It was not a warm smile like Juno's. It was the smile of someone who had just found exactly what she was looking for. "You should listen to that feeling," she said. "It might save your life." Torin left the room quickly. His hands were shaking. That night, Callus could not sleep. She kept thinking about the humans in their cells. She kept thinking about how wrong this felt. She was the weak point. Yuna had known it from the beginning, and Yuna was very patient, just like all humans were. Dr. Vila sent an emergency message to the Galactic Council. She told them everything. The DNA results, the predator markers, the violence genes, the persistence hunting. Everything. The council members appeared on her screen as glowing holograms. There were 12 of them, representing the 12 major species of the galaxy. They listened to her report with bored expressions. When she finished, one of them laughed. "You are scared of these creatures?" he asked. "They have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons of any kind. You must be joking. Show them the history," Dr. Vila said to Torin. Torin pulled up the files they had downloaded from Earth's information networks. The council members watched in silence. They saw humans building pyramids with nothing but their hands and simple tools. They saw humans crossing oceans in wooden boats. They saw humans cutting open their own bodies to remove sickness and sewing themselves back together. Then they saw the wars, trenches filled with mud and death, explosions that turned cities to dust, weapons that could split atoms and destroy entire regions in a flash of light, soldiers charging into certain death, screaming battle cries, fighting for ideas like freedom and honor that had no physical form. The council members stopped laughing. "In less than 10,000 years, Dr. Vila said, humans went from stone tools to nuclear weapons. They have survived 5 extinction events on their planet. They have killed more of their own kind than every predator species in our database combined. And they are still here. They did not go extinct from their own violence. They refined it. They turned their aggression into technology, into medicine, into spacecraft." She paused. "They came from nothing, and now they are reaching for the stars. Nothing stops them. Nothing slows them down. They do not know how to quit." One counselor raised a trembling hand. "What do they fear? Losing each other. That is all. If you harm one of them, you face all of them. They will cross galaxies for revenge. They have stories about it. They call them legends. They celebrate people who destroy everything for love, for justice, for honor." Another counselor spoke. "Then we must never contact them. We must quarantine their system, forever." The vote was unanimous. The Sol system would be sealed. No ships would approach. No signals would be sent. Humanity would be left alone until the end of time. But it was already too late. On the Pale Observer, alarms began to scream. Dr. Vela ran toward the holding cells. Her heart pounded against her chest. She already knew what she would find. The cells were empty. Ren and Sola stood outside Junho's door. They had let him out. Tears ran down their faces. They could not explain why they had done it. They just knew it was the right thing to do. He had asked so kindly. He had seemed so tired. He was their friend. Callus was on the floor outside Yuna's cell, sobbing. She had opened the door herself. She could not carry the guilt anymore. She could not keep them locked away like animals. Yuna had thanked her. Yuna had touched her hand gently. Then Yuna had walked away into the darkness of the station. "Where are they?" Dr. Vila screamed. Torin's voice came over the communication system. "The communication array. They are at the communication array." Dr. Vela ran faster than she had ever run in her life. Security teams joined her, forming a wall of armed soldiers. They surrounded the communication room and burst through the door. Junho and Yuna sat calmly at the main console. Behind them, a screen showed a single blinking light. Green. Transmission successful. They had sent a message. One short burst, carrying the coordinates of the station. Straight to Earth. "What have you done?" Dr. Vela whispered. Junho stood up slowly. His old bones creaked. He stretched and smiled at her with that same gentle expression he always wore. "You studied us," he said. "You compared us to your predators. You looked at our DNA and saw violence. You saw persistence. You saw the ability to bond and break and never stop." He took a step toward her. The soldiers raised their weapons. He did not seem to notice. But you missed the most important thing. You missed what all of that means when you put it together. Yuna stood beside him. Her eyes were cold and calm. She had no smile. She did not need one. "You should have compared us to your gods," Junho said. "Because that is what we become when you threaten the people we love." The transmission light blinked again. Green. Green. Millions of light years away, a small blue planet turned slowly in the darkness. On its surface, cities glowed with light. Billions of humans went about their lives, unaware of what was happening among the stars. But somewhere, in a quiet room, someone received the message. Coordinates appeared on a screen. A location in deep space where two of their own were being held captive. The person looked at the numbers for a long moment. Then they picked up a phone and made a call. Word began to spread. On the Pale Observer, Dr. Vila ordered the humans returned to their cells. More guards were posted. Stronger locks were installed. But everyone knew it did not matter anymore. The message had been sent. Earth knew where they were. Earth knew what had happened to Junho and Yuna. And humans never forgot. Humans never forgave. Humans never stopped. Far away, engines began to warm up. Plans began to form. An entire species started to look toward the stars with very old, very patient eyes. They had been waiting for this moment for a long time. They were finally ready, and they were coming.